Now, a woman has written an open letter about having a miscarriage. In it, she says that the best thing people told her was that it was not your fault. But she was devastated by those who told her that she was lucky it was only at 6 weeks. Now, what do we think? Obviously, telling someone you're lucky it's only at 6 weeks obviously comes from a good place and people are trying to be kind. But what do you think of that, Nadia?
Well, I just think it's really difficult to say the right thing. And I think that when somebody sees that test for the first time, from that moment, then they're planning, wouldn't you say? And I think that it doesn't matter whether it's 6 weeks or 6 months or...
Yeah. No, I think it's... And I think you're right. I think it does come from a good place with people because they don't know what to say. So I think sometimes just to go, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, I hope you're okay, is enough. But they feel they have to make it better by going. I mean, I had a miscarriage after Jake was born, and I think Jake was about 9 months. And me and Shane were expecting again, but it was a really bad time for me and Shane. It was really bad. It was when everything was starting, and I was thinking, oh, you know, I could do without this right now. Anyway, be careful what you wish for, because at about 4 or 5 weeks, I started to miscarry. Now, obviously, there was an element of, the decision's been taken out of my hands, and it's just, you know, it's going to happen. But I had to get the doctor around, obviously. Now, this doctor walked in, it was about 8 o'clock at night. He doesn't know that I haven't been trying for 3 years to have this baby, you know what I mean? He knows nothing about me, and he walked in, he took a look at me, he said, yes, you've lost the baby, go to the doctor's tomorrow and get a scrape, and walked out my house. And I thought, wow. I mean, there was no, it was brutal. And I thought, you don't even know. I mean, luckily I was at a stage where it wasn't a major, you know, traumatic time, really, because the timing of it was wrong. But can you imagine? I thought, what about a woman that has tried and tried, or desperately wanted that baby? And I do think it's something that you have to be so careful about what you say.
You have to. I mean, I suppose a lot of doctors or nurses who might be watching this, because you're sort of trained, aren't you, about the science behind something, but then not necessarily the psychological element of it. And I mean, a similar thing happened to me just in that when I was pregnant with Grace, so I was 41, so it was a miracle. Well, I felt it was a miracle I got pregnant at all. And I started to bleed, and I went to the GP, and she did actually say to me, she said, I'm really sorry, I think you're losing the baby. And I was absolutely devastated. And she said, you need to go to hospital and just have a scan, just to make... But I had to go and sit in A&E. And I sat there for 4 hours just thinking, I'm losing my baby, and I'm 41 and I'm not going to have another baby. This is it. And, you know, by some miracle, when I finally got in there, it was the scans, because it was so early, the ones...
Internal scan.
Yeah. Thank you. Me doing the mime. And straight away she went, oh, and I heard this. And she said, there's the heartbeat. And I went, what do you mean the heartbeat? And she said, well, the baby. And I said, oh, I was told I was losing the baby. She went, oh, no. So, I mean, I had a happy outcome to my story.
For 4 hours.
4 hours of
You had to just
that.
suspend.
Yeah.
You just had to suspend.
And just sit
feeling.
there as if I'd just broken my arm or something.
Yeah.
I remember with one of my miscarriages when I had to go and have the scan, and I remember my sister was with me, and she was holding my hand, and the nurse said, and you know how memory can fail you, but I believe that she said, I'm sorry, but it's an empty sack. And now, she wouldn't have known that particular, the way that she said that, and she was kind, was just, I felt like I'd been shot when she said it. And I remember my sister was squeezing my hand, and I was aware that she was squeezing my hand so tight that it felt like it was breaking, and yet I couldn't really feel it. It was, and then I was
just... Had you
just
gone to the appointment just expecting to be told your baby is...
I was worried that there was something wrong, and I'd had one before, and so... But, you know, I mean, going back to that letter and about people not, you know, not feeling it's your fault, I have felt guilty about my miscarriages. I've always felt, and this is crazy, isn't it? Because if any other woman said they felt any guilt about their miscarriage, I'd be, don't be ridiculous, don't be insane. But it's so hard to take that advice yourself, so often as women, isn't it? Because I'd had a termination when I was younger, I was convinced that I had done something to my cervix from it that had, you know, that was, and with the first one, which was before Maddie, I really did think and I was old, you know, I was 38, 39 when I had Maddie, so I thought that was my last chance with that first pregnancy. And you know, even if I hadn't had a termination, with the miscarriages that came afterwards, it was like, oh, is it because of the 90s? Is it because I was such a big drinker? Is it because, you know, my soil? I always had this thing, the soil wasn't right. You know, I've tried to have a baby and the soil wasn't right.
As in where the baby grows.
Actually, the statistics of miscarriage, first time particularly, are very high, aren't they?
Because they say that it's
whatever's happened in your past.
They say it's a practice for the womb, and I think because we can test so early, and we were trying to get pregnant, we were testing every 5 minutes. You often wouldn't have known.